one of the most recognized names and faces in urban adult entertainment. Memphis Strokes, how are you?
I'm great. How are you?
Where are you from? What was it like growing up for you? And when did you first recognize that you were attracted to other men?
Memphis, Tennessee, born, raised, still live here. So listen, I am in my late 40s. I am 47 years old.
Come on,
I've
47.
always known, as far as I can remember, I've known physically that I like boys, okay? But emotionally and mentally, it was discouraged. So I couldn't display it or I couldn't entertain it. So I went to college when I graduated high school. By my second year of college, my family found out that I went to a club that was a gay club, and they totally disliked it. And so at that moment, they had like a family intervention thing where like my entire family was there and they prayed for me and they cried and they hooped and hollered. And so I had to, in the end, tell them whether I was gay or straight. From what they were already, I felt in that moment that if I told them I was gay, it was gonna be worse. You know what I'm saying? Like I have to live with, what was going on. But I chose to lie and say no, I was straight, and I was tricked into a gay club. But at that moment, I was about 19. At that moment, I had to support my lie to them that I was straight. So I got married 2 years later to a woman. I was married to a woman for 19 years.
When did y'all get divorced, if you don't mind me asking?
I was married to her from the age of 23 to the age of 43, okay? So that was almost 20 years. For the most part, probably about 16 years, I was faithful to her, and I was heavily into church. So I prayed for God to take that away from me and to take the urges, and I was faithful to her. But probably about the last 4 years, because we both spent time getting professionalized and becoming educated and doing things. And so I got my PhD during my marriage, and she had a master's. And so we kind of grew apart, because we were doing our own things. And then our child was like grown. And so we just grew apart. And so we just separated. And when we separated, I felt that was the time for me to become who I always knew I was. And that was only 3 years ago.
During the marriage, how did you grapple with your sexuality?
I told you that I lived through the 90s, right? And in the 90s was when HIV and AIDS was really bad and it was killing people, right? Mm-hmm. So I never wanted to come home and my wife is sitting there crying and telling me I gave her HIV. You know what I'm saying? So I had to protect my image and hers throughout that whole marriage. So that kept me from doing a whole lot. It made me afraid to mess with men. So, like I said, for the 19-year marriage, probably 15, 16 years, I was afraid to do anything because I didn't want to be that one that my wife was at church testifying that her husband gave her something. But then right. Probably about the last 3-4 years of marriage, that's when PrEP and stuff came out. And I secretly got on PrEP while I was married to her.
Okay.
And I started to indulge in sexuality then. But even then, it was very calculated. Like I would only mess with other guys that were married or that were DL because I felt that they would be as cautious as I was and they wouldn't have anything to give me to take back home.
How did you start to develop your understanding of sex? Are you still doing that now?
I've known I like men since I can remember liking anybody. I chose to marry a woman. That was never what my body told me, okay? My body always told me a man was what I was attracted to, but I forced myself to like a woman and to be with her sexually. But I think the more you concentrate on doing what your plan or what your goal is, and mine was to be with a woman, the more I control those thoughts, the easier it was. But over time, when I lost that focus and that concentration and I put myself into environments and places that would make me more accessible to gay men, my guards came down and I became more open to being myself sexually. And that was probably like the last 3 years of my marriage. Like I said, I was still careful, but it was the best time of my life. Well, actually, now it's the best time of my life. But I mean, like I told you, I like got on prep because I saw myself doing more. You know what I'm saying? And she never found out. She never found out until she left me in March of 2019.
Okay.
I did not intentionally do porn, but I went and had a threesome with somebody I did not know did content at that time. At that time, I was still DL. I had no idea about the dark web, about Twitter.
Not the dark web.
I knew nothing about that because I closed it off so that, the more you know, the more you want to be involved or the more you want to indulge. Yeah. So I would have had a threesome with this guy who I had no idea. He's still a huge content creator, okay?
Hold on, who was it?
I don't want to tell that.
Will it later.
Well, and the reason I don't want to make it seem like he did something against my will. I don't want people to see him poorly or bad. You know what I'm saying? But I should have, like a lot of kids now, I should have been more inquisitive about what was going on. I should have known that I was being recorded. I should have known all this stuff that I did not know at the time. And it was because I was ignorant to the fact of being recorded and all that. I know people record it, And so I was at work one day, and this was in April, a month after my ex-wife left me, okay? Which at that time, we had not discussed divorce or nothing. We were just separated. My best friend called me, I was at work, and he said, nigga, you on Twitter fucking. And I was like, huh? I was like, what? No, I'm not. No, I'm not. He said, yes, you are. And overnight, I got like 5,000 followers from that one video.
What was you doing on the video?
It was a threesome. I was probably doing everything. I was probably being versed at the time. But I'm very good in the bed, so people like to watch because I mean, even when I'm not trying, I pull you in. And so I got like 5,000 followers overnight. And so I was like, you know what? Let me see if I can make this bigger. Let me see how this. And so I just started doing little small stuff like going into the bathroom at work, jacking off, or putting my penis beside a can of like Lysol spray so they could see the difference in the size. And so it grew and grew and grew until I just started doing videos.
In making this name for yourself in the adult entertainment world, how did your family know? Did your family?
My ex-wife had a relative that was a trans woman that reached out to me and wanted me to have sex with her. Okay.
Okay.
If I would have done it, she was gonna tell. If I didn't do it, she was gonna tell.
She just wanted to be messy.
She just wanted to be messy and to out me one way or another. And so I chose not to do it. And she sent my videos at that time to every living person that I knew. When I say every living person I knew, that includes my mom, my dad, my grandparents, my siblings, my aunts and uncles, my nieces and nephews, the pastor of my church. I was the minister of music. He meant for that to hurt me. Listen, had she not sent out my product at that time, I would have still been living in a secret little bubble from the heterosexual people in my life. I was never going to tell her. She helped me out. She helped me get that piece of freedom so that I could live as free as I am now.
How has being an adult content creator affected your relationship with your daughter?
Like my daughter, my brothers and my cousins and nephews, they called me and we're like, hey, Mark, we know, we saw the videos, but we want you to know that we still love you the same. Nothing's gonna change. I was like, so I was married to this bitch for 19 years because I could have been who I wanted. Excuse me, I'm sorry. But I could have been doing who I wanted to do. But I think it took them time to grow too.
What do you think the lesson in that for you or anyone else who may be in that situation is?
You have to love yourself first. And it's so many of us walking around not loving ourselves. And a lot of people don't understand how deep that is. When you feel you have to be who other people want you to be, just so they'll be happy, and you don't even care about your own happiness, that's a dark place. I did that for 19 years, but I thought everybody else wanted me to be.
As you were doing this, how is it changing how you understand sex?
Sex for me on camera is usually totally different than who I am in real life. But I had to learn to separate that because at first it was messing with me. Because when you have sex in your personal life, you tend to want to only have sex with people you are attracted to or people you want to have sex with. But when you're doing porn, you got to have sex with who the going person is. And, it may not be somebody you are attracted to, but you got to make it work.
How do you make it work? Do you visualize somebody else? Do you take gas station pills? Like, how does that happen?
If there is something to make your dick hard, I've taken it. I've taken the gas station pills. I've taken Cialis. I've taken Viagra. I've taken the honey. I've even done Trimex. Trimex is an injection that you inject a needle into your penis to make it hard.
This is typically when you are doing a scene with somebody you aren't attracted to.
At this point, it's during a scene period. Because most of us are used to having sex in the dark. So you have to train yourself to have sex with lights on. Somebody maybe running the camera. So you have 2 or 3 other people in the background telling you, go 5 more minutes on this, or that looks good, or that doesn't look good. And so it's highly orchestrated.
Well, first, how do you get over performance anxiety? That has to be a huge one.
I don't think you ever do. It's like every single, you ever heard a singer say every time they hit the stage, they get that same anxiety? Same thing with them every time. And especially if that person's name is bigger than yours. I'll use an example, Fat Rabbit Killer, right? So I did a video with Fat Rabbit Killer, right?
What video with Fat Rabbit Killer?
I've done 2 with him. 2 separate videos.
Now, we've seen some Fat Rabbit Killer videos. What's going through your mind when you got Fat Rabbit Killer behind you?
I was clout chasing. The other thing people don't understand about the whole content creator world, everybody's clout chasing. Everybody, because the thing about it is that you're trying to be exposed to more people, right? So at some point, Memphis Strokes is going to have his fans and his followers that are going to see his content, right? But in order to grow, I need to connect with another content creator that has more followers than me so that I can get some of his followers and fans. So you're always trying to be with somebody that's going to give you that extra push. So being with Fat Rabbit Killer, who has 300,000 followers, I have 150,000 followers. Let me gain about 50 of those, and that takes me up.
Who would you most like to work with?
I definitely want to work with Raheem and his boyfriend.
Raheem Shabazz and Elijah. We'll keep our fingers crossed and see what happens with that.
Me too.
Let's talk about what can sometimes be a certain rigidness in adult content specifically. And I think the way we look at it as Black gay men, for instance, you see a lot of what they call size queens online now. So now they're telling people, oh, well, if your dick is smaller than, 8 inches, you ain't working with nothing, or if somebody has a smaller booty or something like that. Do you think that warps the way a lot of we feel about ourselves when we're engaging in sex or feeling sexually desirable?
Totally. But here's the thing, though. I go back to porn as fantasy.
Yeah.
There's a lot of guys that you see on camera that you think have big dicks that do not. There are a lot of guys you see on camera that you think they have big asses. They do not. And people learn what angles to show people and what angles to not show people to either promote them or to hurt them. So people show you what they want you to see. There's a lot of, listen, when I started doing porn, one thing I told myself, I said, I have learned to let fantasies be fantasies.
People don't know that, and so
they don't.
You down at the club and you see some dude, and I've seen it happen, it'll be a dude who's cute, and then they'll be like, oh, but he don't got no ass. And the reality is everybody don't got no big old ass or this or that, but porn does that. And so sometimes
anybody can do content. Anybody can do porn. You just have to know what to show to work for you and what to do to make people want to watch you. Because you can be a top and not have a great big dick, but people still want to watch you. You have to do something like maybe fuck real hard, or you may have to make people suck your dick real. You have to know what to do to make people still want to watch you. Because I allow my tell me what they want to see. But if you think about it, who's paying? So I want to give them what they're going to pay to see.
Having parts of your sexuality directed around, how do you separate your sexuality in your work from what you do, say, if you're dating somebody?
It has totally ruined, doing it has totally ruined my relationship world.
Doing adult content.
Doing adult content. But I tell anybody who comes to me for advice, if they're thinking about doing content, what advice, the biggest piece of advice I give them is that you have to realize that everybody in the world is going to see this and it will never go away. It's there forever. When you want to change your life and become faithful to somebody and be, this husband or wife or whatever, people are still going to be able to see
what has this journey that you're on in, making adult content, being an adult model, entertainer, what has this journey taught you the most about yourself or about life?
Woo. The most thing it's taught me about myself is to not give a damn what anybody else thinks of me. It's taught me that I can sit and lay in the bed and be depressed all day, every day about what people think of me and let them keep me down and keep me from things that I can have, from goals that I can accomplish, to not let that control me, to do what I want to do. And that's what makes me happy. And I don't see happiness until I do what I want to do. And I want to be happy. So I got to do what I want to do and don't give a damn about what anybody else thinks.
I admire you for standing in your truth. And so I thank you for taking the time to talk to us and share as authentically as you can about who you are and what your journey is. I appreciate you.
Thank you.